This is absolutely awful. I think it's actually an illegal interpretation of the Equalities Act.
Another really shocking story over the past 24 hours, Father Calvin. This was uncovered by our friend Andy No, the independent journalist, who posted on X. The Westminster City Council has posted a DEI job recruitment ad that says whites will be discriminated against. Now, this job, Calvin, is for an executive assistant working within the city of Westminster. The salary, pretty astonishing to me, a range of up to £64,000 for an executive assistant. Sounds like a very good salary. But let me read the job advertisement to you, because this is what's really shocking. The council is committed to achieving diverse shortlists to support our desire to increase the number of staff from underrepresented groups in our workforce. We especially encourage applicants from a global majority, GM, people who are Black, Asian, brown, dual heritage, indigenous to the global south, or have been racialized as ethnic minorities, formerly known as BAME, Black, Asian, and multiple ethnic background. And while the role is open to all applicants, we will utilize the positive action provisions of the Equality Act 2010 to appoint a candidate from a global majority background where there is a choice between two candidates of equal measure. And they say, if you are from a global majority background, you can self-declare this to the hiring manager as part of our positive action commitments. Calvin, if you're white, don't you dare apply.
This is absolutely awful. I think it's actually an illegal interpretation of the Equalities Act. The Equalities Act isn't supposed to give positive discrimination, and it quite clearly says positive action. This is to prevent people from being discriminated against. It's not to discriminate in favor of people. It's two very different things. And so what the Equalities Act is there for is to say you cannot discriminate against people based on their ethnicity. Right, which I think we would all agree on, because we support meritocracy. The best person for the job should get the job. But what people are interpreting it as is, oh, we can discriminate people in favor of their ethnicity to show that we're not discriminatory. That's a logical fallacy. And I think it's an illegal interpretation, but it's one that's been done for quite often. I campaigned to get rid of the Equalities Act for this very reason. I don't think it's helpful to us. I think it's actually more divisive. Kemi Badenoch, the new leader of the Conservatives, said no, it's an important piece of legislation and it should be used as a shield rather than a sword. But I don't think people are using it as a shield. This is a prime example of people using it as a sword. This is being used for anti-white discrimination. That should be illegal. Any discrimination based on race should be illegal in a fair and democratic society like ours.
And Colin Brazier posted on this, a generation of our young are coming onto the labour market laden with student debt, priced out of housing by migration and struggling to find a job paying above minimum wage. They see high salary jobs like this effectively put out of reach because they are white, corrosive. It's shocking, isn't it, Calvin?
It is, but we have a whole society which preaches about multiculturalism and multi-ethnicity and diversity and inclusion, yet every step of the way is more divisiveness, more exclusion. Like, we are reaching a point where it's going to be seen as a bad thing to be a native white Briton in Britain or a native white Englishman in England, and that surely can't be healthy or good for our society. Like, you can say, yes, we want people of other faiths, other cultures, other ethnicities if you want to. You don't have to. You can say that. But if you are saying that, you can't say we want fewer white people, fewer English people, fewer Britons. That's just terrible.
Breaking right now, the BBC is being roasted over video that has gone viral from a panel show in 2013 where a member of the audience who had personal experience with the issue of the rape gangs was effectively ignored and lambasted. Does this not sum up the absolute despicable nature of the mainstream media, specifically the British Bashing Corporation? Look how quickly they wanted to move that conversation on to being one of female sexuality.
And the issue of rape has nothing to do with female sexuality. For him to suggest that it does or imply that it does is disgusting on his part. These women are being raped because the men doing so don't see them as human beings. That's part of the problem. We have to address why is that. He's right. We need an adult conversation, but he's not the one having it. He's deflecting away from the adult conversation for his own political agenda. And many of the people there, much of the audience there, were trying to be like, oh. So even if it's true, it may or may not be true, but even if it is true that there is a problem in that area, that particular area, with Asian men raping young British girls, even if it's true, they don't want to hear it. Because just saying those words, it breaks down their idol of diversity, inclusion, and multiculturalism. They can't have the adult conversation. The response was the ooh and the ah and the hissing, rather than saying, well, what's happening here? Are young girls being raped? Who's doing the raping? And then further on, why is this certain demographic doing it? And then further on, what can we do about that? And we can't even get to the what can we do about it yet, because we're so far down the chain of the conversation. Now, my personal stance is that if this is predominantly Pakistani Muslim men that are raping girls in the United Kingdom, then we should have a moratorium on Pakistani Muslim men entering the United Kingdom. And actually, we should look at deporting Pakistani Muslim men, because it's certainly a clash in cultures, a clash in ideas and values, and a clash in religion, and it's not working for us. We can't sit back and let our daughters, our sisters, our mothers, our aunties be raped for the sake of an ideology. It's disgusting. And all the people that are saying, ooh, we can't mention that, they are part of the problem, and they need their eyes opened, but they can't have their eyes opened because they're so blinkered by this idol of you must not say something that goes against the religion of peace because it will be seen as racist or xenophobic or Islamophobic. So what? I would rather be racist, Islamophobic, xenophobic than supporting the rape of young white girls.
And Father Calvin, the thing is, that was 2013. Right? So you would hope, wouldn't you? You would hope that there had been some sort of major change in society over the past decade, with people actually hopefully understanding the scale of what had gone on and the reason why we need to talk about it. But this week in Wales, there was one of the most shocking incidents of the political establishment attempting to shut down this discussion. So I'm going to show you some of this exchange between Darren Millar. He is the new Tory leader in the Welsh Parliament, the Welsh Senate. So he's a Conservative MS. And he states some very difficult to hear, but utterly important facts about the rape gangs scandal. However, the presiding officer, Ellen Jones, who is effectively the Welsh equivalent of the Speaker of the House, tries to shut him down, suggesting his language is somehow spreading hatred. Now, this is really hard to believe that it's still going on, that this happened this week. But watch for yourself, and Father Calvin, I'll get you to react off the back.
We know from media reports that young girls have been recruited by grooming gangs here in South Wales before being gang raped and then trafficked to Telford, Hereford and Blackpool. One victim has even said that she was strangled, she was threatened with a knife, and her home was threatened with being burnt down. She was then raped, I'm afraid to say, First Minister, 1,000 times. She didn't know the number of perpetrators because there were so many.
I need you to come to your question now. You are being overly descriptive, and I think verging on not being totally respectful of the victim at this point. So can you tone down the rhetoric slightly?
I'm afraid I'm simply reading facts.
No, you're not.
No, you're not.
The use of language in this place needs to be making sure that you are keeping well away from inflaming any kind of discrimination or inciting of any kind of discrimination. You were doing very well, Darren Millar, with your first two questions in avoiding that. In your third one, you've become overly descriptive, and I need you to now reflect on that and just ask the question again, please.
I am not seeking to inflame anything.
Good. I'm glad you confirmed that. I'm glad you confirmed that. Now carry on with your question.
Shame on her. What a patronising, despicable woman who is actually doing her own sex a disservice here, trying to be on the side of the victims. And if you watch that exchange continue, she ends up threatening to silence Darren Miller altogether unless he immediately puts his question. I just could not believe it, Calvin.
Absolutely wicked woman. And she shows her hand because she starts out by saying, oh, it's the language is too graphic. You're doing a disservice to the victims, but it's not about the victims, because she goes on to say, what we don't want you doing in here is inciting discrimination against certain demographics. That's the crux. That's the clincher. That's the matter that she's really upset about. She doesn't want people getting angry at the Muslims that are doing this, the Pakistani Muslims that are doing this grooming and raping and abuse and torture of these young girls. She's not concerned about the victims and the survivors. I know some of these victims and survivors from those places that were just discussed in that clip, and I think it's absolutely disgusting that we have so many people protecting the perpetrators rather than the victims and the survivors. Their story deserves to be heard, and the men deserve justice, and that means they should be deported at the very least, if not hanged for what they're doing to these young girls. It's absolutely evil, and the people like her who are covering it up for the sake of, we must not incite any kind of, no, we need discrimination. We need discrimination against the people that are perpetrating this. Anyone that is coming to our country and raping our girls needs to be discriminated against. That should be the law, not protecting them.
Yeah. But the point is, the establishment want to pretend this didn't happen. They can't stand hearing the details because the details are so shocking. And there's a real problem, Calvin, even for people like me having to operate within the big tech world, because what happens, and hopefully this is going to change a little bit with Meta's new positioning in terms of political conversation, but they shut us down too. They shadow ban the content. They put age controls on the content as well, because yes, you are talking about something which is incredibly difficult, but it happened. And if people don't know that it happened, then there's not going to be the outrage to force and demand the change. But unfortunately, something mad is going on in Wales at the moment, because the Welsh Refugee Council is using 12-year-old girls in an advertisement meant to entice migrant men to come to Wales. Most members, by the way, of this council are from the Middle East, India, and Pakistan. Watch this. But first, it turns out the key to losing weight and keeping it off is not in carbs or fat or even in probiotic-rich foods. No, the end game of having a healthy weight, as well as more energy and a long, healthy life, comes down to a specific switch you can flip in your body to flush out unnecessary calories. Dr. Stephen Gundry is calling this caloric bypass. And by activating this specific process in your body, he's seen thousands of people dramatically improve their health, even at age 50 and beyond. This includes losing weight, getting tons more energy, and returning to the good health they had in their youth once they simply addressed this one key to better health. Not only that, this is actually associated with improved digestion, strong feeling joints and muscles, smoother skin, and healthier lives, meaning it could be the key to a happy life. Dr. Stephen Gundry has lost 70 pounds himself using this research and has kept the weight off for over 20 years and counting. His digestive issues are gone, his health is fantastic, and he feels younger and healthier today than he did in his 40s. His video has been watched by over 20 million people to date, and you can watch and learn more about it at thehealthyfat.com/outspoken. It's linked at the bottom of this video, but he'll teach you exactly how he has kept his weight off for free at thehealthyfat.com/outspoken. Just click in the link, which is in the description box, the show notes below this video, or you can use the QR code, which is on the screen right now. But now, back to the show.
Hello and welcome to Wales. We understand being a refugee isn't easy. They go through so much.
Fleeing your country is difficult, but Wales wants to help you feel welcome.
The Welsh Refugee Council is here to help you. You can contact...
I mean,
They may as well just put out a shopping list. This is a catalogue. Come here. These are for you. It's demonic. There's no other. How is this not evil?
I know. And the thing is, Calvin, I can see exactly what the usual suspects, the establishment, are trying to do to shut down this conversation. I actually was furious as well with Wes Streeting, the Labour Health Secretary, who gave an interview to the left-wing media actually suggesting that what they describe as grooming gang rhetoric risks inciting mass violence. And he used the example of the mosque shooting in New Zealand. So again, I think that is utterly, utterly evil. I'll use your word, Calvin. It's evil because it's saying if you talk about these most terrible crimes that took place in our country that were ignored by the establishment and ignored by the mainstream media, if you even talk about them, you are risking other violence.
You know what? I will agree with him, actually. I'll say, yes, it does incite mass violence. Yes, it does. But the way to solve that isn't to stop us talking about it, it's to stop it from happening. Stop these Pakistani Muslim men from raping our girls, and then you will stop the violence which will come as a reaction from Pakistani Muslim men raping our girls. You don't stop people talking about the rape. You don't say, oh, this grooming gang rhetoric is what's... It's not the rhetoric that's going to cause the violence. It's a reaction to you guys not doing anything about them coming over here and raping our daughters.
Yeah, so you would go down the Trump route of a Muslim travel ban.
Oh, I mean, I've been saying this for a long time. I don't think, I think there's too much incompatibility between Islam and Christianity. And England is still a Christian, while it is still a Christian country, we should have a moratorium. No more immigrants or refugees from Islamic countries unless they are Christian refugees. Because we have to have people that share our values and want to protect our vulnerable and our innocent and see that as a good thing and don't see them as a shopping list or a menu for their own debauched, depraved, disgusting lifestyles. The fact that this is happening so often, so frequently in so many places around the country and no one wants to stop it because it's too dangerous to talk about it says that we need drastic actions. And one of those actions is no more Islamists, no more Muslims, no more Mohammedans in the United Kingdom. And actually, let's go further. Let's deport the ones that we currently have.
I do wonder if the Overton window has been shifted on this conversation by Elon Musk, because I was looking at a comedy performance from Unleashed Comedy. Now, that is certainly a comedy club which does support right-wing comedians, and I think that's a great thing. Lots of the folk who are involved with it are also involved with headliners on GB News. But I was watching this particular act by a guy called Nicholas DeSanto, who I hadn't heard of before. I have to be completely honest. And I just thought, wow, actually, if comedians are now talking about the madness of the situation, maybe it has broken through. Maybe this is a genuine moment of cultural change. So I know some people will say, oh, you shouldn't laugh about this issue at all. But actually, I think it's probably important that it becomes part of the national conversation. But I'll let you be the judge. Let's have a watch of this together, Calvin, and then you can respond off the back.
Mattel have released their latest inclusive Barbie, a Barbie with Down syndrome. Previously, they had released Barbie with hearing aid and Ken with a skin disease. It's all part of an effort to make Barbie dolls more relatable to a bigger number of girls. Their next release, Barbie, the white English girl from underprivileged background, abused by Pakistani gangs. And Ken, the cowardly English policeman who did nothing about it. For fear of being called a racist.
Now, of course, it's on the line, Father Calvin, but that's the point of comedy, isn't it?
That was good comedy because he wasn't mocking the victims. He was using the victims to shine a light on the issue, and is actually mocking the police and the people that have not wanted to address the situation. That was good comedy. And I think comedy like that is important. You've had so many comedians on your show over the years who've been cancelled for addressing topics that are seen as taboo, but it's important that they keep pushing that line, because pushing it through taboo into the well, shifting the Overton window, as you said, helps us have the conversation. Our old friend Leo Kearse sent a message today saying he did his set last night on child rape gangs as well. And so this is happening. The comedians will be the ones to help us bring it into the lexicon where the politicians, the mainstream media don't want it to be said. And it's not a case that our politicians and our mainstream media don't know what's going on and it's too shocking for them to hear. It's that they know what's going on, they know how shocking it is, and that's why they want to hide it from the general public.
Exactly. And that's why I think Elon Musk's intervention, the free speech, which is now available to all on X, is hopefully going to change the Overton window on a whole load of these issues. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.